We are grateful to Allah for this chance to be here in France, the land famous for Islamophobia. And because of the effort of Muhammad Amin, an extraordinary brother, I am here today and to address you on a subject of critical importance. The subject is sacred time and Dajjal, the false Messiah. If anyone were to ask you, how old are you? Most people will answer and give the answer which is to be found in your passports. Namely, your age in accordance with secular time. Very few would give the answer based on sacred time which comes from Allah and in the Quran. I am now 85 years of age by the moon, but by secular time I am 83. I hope you had your dinner early tonight and you had enough time to digest your dinner, because this topic is so frightening it will disturb your digestion. Our Prophet, Allah's blessing be upon him, prophesied something pertaining to time in Akhir Zaman. He said that the time will come when time will move faster and yet faster. A whole year will pass like a month. A whole month will pass like a week. A whole week like a day. A whole day like an hour. A whole hour like the amount of time it takes to kindle a fire. I was in a masjid in Britain and I asked all those present, raise your hands if you perceive time moving faster and yet faster. Everybody raised their hands except the Imam. So I was about to turn to the Imam to congratulate him, but his hand was not up when he put his hand up as well. This translation is excellent. This is where we are today, where nearly everybody are now perceiving what our Prophet prophesied. The price we pay when we perceive time moving faster and faster is that we have abandoned sacred time and we are now following a different system of time, in consequence of which, listen carefully, the heart is no longer beating the way it ought to be. There is a sickness in the heart when the heart is perceiving time moving faster and yet faster. The malady is that the heart would be like a motor car engine which is out of tune. And if you do not tune up that engine, eventually the performance of the car will deteriorate until eventually it will stop working. The price you pay when the heart is not beating in harmony with sacred time is that nur cannot enter into that heart. Nur is not sold in the supermarket. Nur is not sold in the stock market. يَهْدِ اللَّهُ لِنُورِهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. Nur comes only from Allah. Ask any African who is faithful to the land of Africa, and he'll tell you what is Nur. That there are those who have eyes and can see, and there are those who have eyes and yet cannot see. While you lived in Africa, you had eyes and you could see. When you come to live in France, it's just a matter of time before you no longer can see. Tell me, am I correct? Yes. Yes, I'm correct. So now then, this is how important is the subject. It pertains to the heart, it pertains to Nur. Allah says, وَلَا تَعْمَلْ أَبْصَارِ. No, it's not these eyes which are blind. وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَلْ قُلُوبَ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ. What is blind is the heart which is inside the chest. They have eyes and yet cannot see, says Allah. They have ears and cannot hear, says the Quran. They have hearts and yet do not understand. أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ. They're just like cattle. بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ. They're worse than cattle. And how does the verse begin? وَلَقَدْ ذَرَأْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْإِنسِ وَالْجِنِّ. Most people and most jinn are now consigned for Jahannam. Why? No nur in the heart. The end time or Akhiru Zaman is the time in when Al-Masih al-Dajjal will take control of the world. The end time or Akhir Zaman is the time when Ya'juj and Ma'juj or Gog and Magog will be released into the world. The end time or the last time, Akhir Zaman, is the time when Dabbatul Ard would consume the minsa of the staff of Sulaiman alayhi salam. And the surah of the Quran, I know a little bit of French. the surah of the Quran, par excellence, of Akhir Zaman, is Surah Al-Kahf. And every single word of Surah Al-Kahf is strikingly significant. And the Quran says that they slept for 300 years was da'alu tisa. This is not by accident. This is strikingly important. They slept for 300 years, yani 300 years in sacred time. But this was a world which was committing shirk. And the young men stood up against the godlessness of this world. That's what young people normally do. And because they stood up to proclaim the truth without regard for consequences, they were terrorized. They called them terrorists that they had to flee. So it was that godless world which had a different system of time other than sacred time. And they were the ones who added 9 to make it 309. The secular world, the godless world, had to add 9 to the 300 to make it 309. So the difference between sacred time and secular time was that sacred time functioned with the moon. And while the Quran does refer to solar time, for example, إِلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ, that the caravans went in the summer to Damascus, but in the winter they went to Yemen. This is solar time. But Allah did not give the solar year to count time, to count the years. No, He says in the Quran, and He says it twice, He says it in Surah Al-Isra, and he says it in Surah Yunus. I gave you the moon, listen, لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ, that you might use the moon to count the years and to compute time. Which surahs? Surah Al-Isra and Surah Yunus. I gave you the moon to count the years. لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ. Allah did not give us the sun to count the years. He gave us the moon to count the years. The world of shirk, the world of kufr, abandoned the moon and have told whole land to the sun to count the years. And that is why they had to add 9 to the 300 to make 309, because a lunar year is about 11 days shorter than a solar year. And we got the same thing that they did at that time with the young men in the cave. We saw the same thing in Mecca at the time when the Quran was revealed. We go now to Surah At-Tawbah and to 2 verses in Surah At-Tawbah. And not today but tomorrow we will return to Surah At-Tawbah to ask the question why every surah of the Quran begins with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, except this one. Is this an accident? Are there accidents in the Quran? Or is it that there is a specific reason why Surah At-Tawbah does not begin with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim? Now then, Allah begins the subject of sacred time. He begins it in Surah At-Tawbah. And this is what he says. إنما الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض إلى آخر الآية. Why 12 months? What is the significance of the number 12? Simple. When you count from 1 to 12, when you reach 12, you come back to 1. So there are 12 months in a year. So a year in sacred time is comprised of 12 months. And this was established and this was ordained at that time, even before your grandfather was born. It was established at the time when Allah created the heavens and the earth. At that time, He ordained that a year is comprised of 12 months. But then, the Arabs did the same thing. The Quraysh did the same thing. The Arabs did the same thing that they did in Surah Al-Kahf. They corrupted the system of sacred time. And now we turn to the next ayah, immediately after this, in Surah At-Tawbah. And this is the most important ayah of all in the subject. إِنَّمَا النَّسِيءُ زِيَادَةٌ لِلْكُفْرِ. Allah speaks about something called nasi. And He says about nasi that this is additional kufr, or this is the road to ever increasing kufr. Kufr after kufr after kufr. What the Arabs did was they wanted to synchronize lunar time with solar time. So that the month of Ramadan will always come in the summer. So they added one more month to the 12 every third year. The Hindus are doing the same thing today, the Jews are doing the same thing today, the Christians are doing the same thing today. Everybody all over the world, they're doing the same thing today. So Nasi is not just adding a 13th month to the 12, but Nasi is actually the corruption of sacred time. And this Nasi is kufr. And also the road to kufr after kufr after kufr. I want to turn now to the difficult part of the subject, so bear with me. The rest will be easy. What I want to do is establish the link between Dajjal and time. I am 85 years of age. I've spent my life in Islamic scholarship. I have never as yet across any scholar of Islam who has attempted in the modern age to establish the link between Dajjal and time, scholarly. Our Prophet, Allah's blessing be upon him, said that when Dajjal is released, he will live on earth for 40 days, one day like a year, one day like a month, one day like a week. وَسَائِرُ أَيَّامِهِ كَأَيَّامِكُمْ. Now then, a day like a year, a day like a month, a day like a week is contracting time. Time that is contracting. So he has established a link between Dajjal and time, between Dajjal and contracting time. And when time contracts, time moves faster. But there's more to the hadith, but that is not a part of our subject on time, that is the political part of the subject. We turn now to the Quran and Dajjal and time. And in the Quran, Allah speaks and tells us that you must study the Quran the way you study the stars. When I was a student of Usul al-Tafsir, the textbook, Al-Fawz al-Kabir fi Usul al-Tafsir, and we spent a whole year studying that book, and not a single reference in that book to the most important verse of all in the Quran pertaining to methodology for study of the Quran. This is in what is the surah? When you're traveling all the time, sometimes you forget.
Quand vous voyagez tout le temps,
Yeah.
vous oubliez.
Help me somebody.
Quelqu'un peut m'aider?
Come on.
Wakia.
Wakia, correct. Who is it?
Levez la main.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. All right. What's the ayah? Tell me.
Quel est le verset alors?
No.
I don't have the verse, but he has the...
You know the ayah?
No, I don't.
Why not?
It's the first time I'm listening to this topic.
No. You're teaching the subject here. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِمَوَاقِعِ. You know it. Yeah. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِمَوَاقِعِ النُّجُومِ. And I take an oath, qasam, by the positions in which the stars are located. وَإِنَّهُ لَقَسَمٌ لَوْ تَعْلَمُونَ عَظِيمٌ. And this is not an ordinary qasam. This is the most important of all of the qasams of Allah.
إنه لقرآن كريم في كتاب مكنون لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. Now this is a recitation which is located in a book which is protected, and none can touch this book except those who are pure and clean. So what is so important about the positions in which the stars are located? Answer. This verse of the Quran is pointing to you that if you want to study the verses of the Quran, you have to do it the way you study the positions in which the stars are located in order to read the sky. There used to be a time when we had scholars who used to study the Quran this way, but today we've lost it. So you have to look to see the connections between verses of the Quran to be able to understand what the subject is. So here is a verse of Surah Al-Saba. And Sulaiman alayhi salam is ruling over the world in the holy state of Israel located in Jerusalem. The holy state, the Khilafah state of Israel located in Jerusalem, and he's ruling over it. He's a king and he's a prophet. And Allah sends him a vision, and the vision terrifies him. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّا سُلَيْمَانَ. We tested Sulaiman. We gave him something which caused him distress. وَأَلْقَيْنَا عَلَى كُرْسِيهِ جَسَدًا. And we placed a jasad on his throne. We will come to the word jasad shortly. When he saw this jasad, he immediately understood the meaning of the vision. Me, I would take a lifetime to understand, but not Sulaiman. Automatically he understood. And we know how he understood the vision based on his response. قَالَ رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَهَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي. He said, first of all, he sought forgiveness from Allah, not for any particular sin he committed. No. This is his way, that when he wants to ask for something, he first asks for forgiveness. And so when you want to ask for something, you know how difficult it is today to get married. So when you want to ask for something, first of all ask for forgiveness and then ask for what you want. وَهَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي. Two meanings. And grant that none can inherit my kingdom after me, and grant that there could never be another kingdom comparable to mine. And so now, it is possible for us to recognize what was his understanding of the vision, namely, that person sitting on my throne, whom Allah has shown to me, is a very, very evil person, and he wants to inherit my kingdom. This is the Khilafah state, the only one on earth, the only one. And Allah says, He told the angels, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. So the purpose of sending mankind on earth was to establish this Khilafah state. And yet, he is asking Allah, I don't want anyone to inherit this kingdom after me. لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي. Hence, Sulaiman alayhi salam is asking that holy Israel, the Khilafah state of Israel, should perish when he dies. There is proof that our explanation of the Quran is correct. The proof is that after Sulaiman alayhi salam died, Allah answered his dua and the holy state of Israel perished and was never restored until this day. So now then, who or what was the Jasad? A Jasad is a body without a soul, and that is what the Samiri forged from gold when Musa alayhi salam was up the mountain. While Musa was up the mountain, that is what the Samiri did. So now, the Jasad was a golden calf, and Samiri told them that you must worship the golden calf, and they're doing that up to this day. But this Jasad cannot be a calf. This Jasad wants to inherit Holy Israel. So this Jasad has to be a human being, but not a human being with a human nafs. Okay, so I came to the conclusion, and I am confident that I am correct, that that evil being sitting on the throne who wants to inherit Holy Israel is Dajjal, the false Messiah. This is ayah mutashabiha, meaning a verse of the Quran which has to be interpreted with ta'wil in order to be understood. And we have the freedom up to this day to interpret the Quran. However, whoever you are when you interpret the Quran, even if you are Shia, only Allah can confirm that the interpretation is correct. And so when we interpret the Quran, we always say, Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best. We can be right and we can be wrong, but we have the right to interpret the Quran. If we interpret the Quran correctly, then that becomes truth and it will prevail. If we make a mistake in interpreting the Quran, we still get barakah for having made the effort. But tomorrow it will go down the river of no return and be forgotten. So when I interpret the Quran, you must not accept my interpretation unless you are convinced that I am correct. And so now we have from the Quran division. The Dajjal is going to be sitting on the throne of Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam after Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam passes away. Now we turn to the other verse, which I think is in maybe Surah Al-Nahl, Namal, I don't remember correctly. وَلَمَّا قَضَيْنَا سُلَيْمَانَ الْمَوْتِ. When death came to Sulaiman, what happened? مَا ضَلَّهُمْ عَنْ مَوْتِهِ إِلَّا. Notice how slowly I'm going. مَا ضَلَّهُمْ عَنْ مَوْتِهِ إِلَّا دَابَّةُ الْأَرْضِ تَأْكُلُ مِنْ سَأَتَهُ. When we go to this is the uncomfortable part of the lecture now. I wish I didn't have to share this with you. When we go to the tafsir of the Quran, this is what we get. It is painful for me to say there's something to be found in the classical tafsir. It's nonsense. It is painful for me to say that. What you find in the classical tafsir is that when Sulaiman died, he died while sitting on his throne, holding on to his staff. And nobody knew he was dead. And he kept on sitting on the throne all day, not talking, not moving, not going to eat, not going to the bathroom, not going to sleep. Not only for one day, for more than one day, for a few months, maybe a few years. And he remained like that, sitting on his throne, holding on to the staff, the dead body, until some termites came and started nibbling at the bottom of the staff. And it took a few years, perhaps, to nibble enough until the staff lost its balance. And when the staff lost its balance, then the body of Suleiman lost its balance and he collapsed. I am not happy in saying, but that is nonsense. That is nonsense. What happened was, when Suleiman alayhi salam died, everybody knew he was dead and he was buried. But when he made the dua, لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي لا ينبغي ملكا لا ينبغي أحد من بعدي, grant me a kingdom incomparable to any other. Then Allah gave him the jinn, the shayateen of the jinn, who were ordered to work for him. And some of them were آخرين مقرنين في الأسفار. They were in chains. And these shayateen did not know that he was dead. Allah gave them orders that you must obey Sulaiman alayhi salam. And if you disobey, I will punish you with terrible punishment. The reason why they did not know that Suleiman is dead was because even though he was dead, they were still seeing him sitting on the throne, holding on to his staff, talking and walking and moving, and so they're convinced he's alive. So the Jasad sitting on the throne, so long as he's holding on to the staff, is able to use the minsa, with C, not sad. He's able to use the minsa of the staff to intervene in time and to move time backwards and forwards to show Suleiman still alive. When I was studying this subject, I approached two scholars of Arabic, both of them with PhDs. One was Syrian with a PhD in Quranic semantics, and the other was Palestinian with a PhD in Quranic Arabic. And I asked both of them, what is the minsa? And both of them replied, the minsa is the staff. The kan is asa with sword, and minsa with sea. So I said, I don't agree with these two scholars. And I came to the conclusion that the minsa is not the staff, but the minsa is a miraculous quality of the staff. Throw the staff on the ground, it becomes a snake. Strike the water with the cane, and the water parted. Tell Netanyahu for me, please. It's coming back. It's coming back. Strike the rock with the cane. 12 streams of water came. And so the staff of Suleiman alayhi salam controls time. And if you hold that staff, you can change time, you can corrupt time. The staff of Suleiman alayhi salam has a minsa which is connected with time. Nasi, minsa, nasi. Innama nasi'u ziyadatun lil kufr. The same word, nasi. The staff of Suleiman alayhi salam has a miraculous quality which can control time. in which you can bring about corruption of time with backward and forward movement of time. And so Dajjal is still holding on to that staff of Suleiman now up to this moment, And Dajjal is still using the minsa of the staff to get the jinn to work for the state of Israel. On another occasion, we'll be able to establish the relationship between the jinn, the shayateen, and modern Western civilization, as well as the state of Israel. So what we have done tonight is we have established the relationship between Dajjal and time. And that Dajjal is going to corrupt sacred time and demolish sacred time to replace it with bogus, secular, godless time. This is the difficult part of the subject. Tomorrow night will be an easier topic. When we first of all, we will explain to you and describe to you from the Quran the system of sacred time. And then we will explain to you tomorrow night how Dajjal has destroyed it and replaced it with bogus, godless, secular time. But the third lecture, which will be the following night, will be the most important one of all. If we are to return to sacred time, to living with sacred time, how do we do it? Is there a way that we can return to sacred time and get our hearts to beat in harmony with sacred time? And we no longer will perceive time moving faster and yet faster. That is the third lecture. When we finish with the subject of sacred time and Dajjal, I then want to take you to the last book I've written, entitled The Quran and Russia's Destiny. Last February of last year, I was invited to a conference in Moscow, and when the conference was over, I was invited, to my surprise, to have dinner with a small group, about 15 of us, with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and he spent about 2 hours with us, and he was very in a jovial mood, talking and laughing and joking, but all about politics and economics, until I intervened. Mr. Minister, would you allow me to speak on the Quran and in Russian? Then there's silence. And then he said, yes, go ahead. And when I was finished, he said, can you write on the subject? So I spent the next 5 months writing this book, which no one had ever written on before, the Quran and Russia's Destiny. And in this I go to Surah Al-Rum and Surah Al-Kahf and then Surah Al-Anbiya, and that topic will be taking 2 more days. And then after I complete 2 lectures on that subject for you, I then want to spend 1 evening on methodology for study of the Quran, usul al-tafsir. When I'm finished with methodology for study of the Quran, then I have 1 more lecture. The most important event now remaining to occur in history for us Sunni. The Sunni has one view, the Shia has another. For us it is the return of Al-Masih, Nabi Isa alayhi salam. What does the Quran say on the subject of the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam? This is so important because there were 2 Sheikh al-Azhar, who gave fatwa that Jesus is not coming back. And there have been several distinguished scholars of Islam who have declared Jesus is not coming back. My own teacher of blessed memory, who is one of the greatest scholars of his age, Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, he has said that the return of Jesus is only a prophecy of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Nothing in the Quran to support it. So we want to spend one day on the Quran and the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. When I went to Qom in Iran, I found, to my surprise, that the Shia believe that the most important event awaiting to occur in history is the advent of Imam al-Mahdi. And then after that we'll have one more day before I depart. And that day I leave it open to you to ask any question on any subject you want.